MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF Mailbag.
It's been a while, guy.
It has been a while. We've got a backlog. I'll be honest. Some of the mail had to get shredded.
It's part of life.
Went to the wrong address. We appreciate everybody's reviews, but we haven't done a mailbag in so long. Some of the stuff was so dated, it couldn't make it into this version of the mailbag.
What do you guys think of the Warriors against the Grizzlies in the coming up matchup?
There are a couple that rolled that we've repurposed that I think will be worthwhile. It is Thursday when this is released. If you're watching or you're listening, we got college football on Thursday. Ton of games. We'll have some DraftKings picks for you as well. And before we get started, remember, the weekend is upon us. Football season is here, and that can only mean one thing. Tito's Handmade Vodka. They sponsored this podcast. I talked to my dad the other day. He said, hey, did you guys get Tito's back? And I said, yes. Everybody asks. Tito's, it is, I think, the number one thing we're recognized for these days, John.
Yeah, it's and we are very proud of it, and we want you guys to be very proud of it. We think it's the greatest partnership that we could possibly ask for because it's perfectly with our listener base and perfectly with, the majority of Americans because it's the number one vodka in America. So this weekend, when you're watching some ball, when you're watching some pigskin, college football, a week away, I guess if you're listening to this on Thursday, 7 days away for the NFL starting.
Call.
So, if you're watching Fresno State, Cal Poly, I don't know, it might be the biggest game beside Ohio State and Notre Dame of the
handball. Some are calling it the handball.
Check out, make your Tito's, link us, DM us, at John MIDDLEKAUFF, at Guy Haberman, Twitter, Instagram. I don't really know how to share stuff on TikTok, so probably avoid that. But Instagram, Twitter, I think we're pretty well versed in. And John Daly's, Tito Sodas, you name it, Tito's.
It's gonna be supposed to be a warm weekend, John. So perfect for John Daly's and some maybe Tito's and ginger. Big fan of that. A little lime. Check out some more recipes. Tito'sVodka.com. Whether you're going to a party, it's the perfect thing to bring. If you're hosting a party, it's the perfect thing to have. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Crafted to be savored responsibly. All right, you ready for a mailbag?
Yeah, I mean, let's dive in, baby.
Here's how you submit. By the way, you go to Apple Podcast, leave us a review, 5 stars. Although you'll see one of these reviews not. And in that, leave us a question. I know it's bullshit. And wait till somebody left us a 4-star review while asking for a favor.
Guy, I mean, I don't even.
Maroon. All right, here we go, John. Up first from Pete, 5 stars. Is it underrated how crazy it is that Belichick hired Matt Patricia to be his offensive coordinator? Boy, I know you love this question.
I think it's easily one of the biggest universally accepted to make fun of stories in the NFL and moving forward. And a lot of people, I was watching the Raider game, probably the second, whenever they played the Patriots. And people were like, maybe Belichick's just calling the plays. The Raiders broadcast on back-to-back plays had Patricia on the camera, like at between the 40 seconds of the ball snap. Mm-hmm. Clearly him calling in the play. Now, I know that they have come out and said that they have worked on different situations where Judge calls some plays, Belichick calls some in the red zone. Like, Patricia is a play caller, and he is going to call, I don't know, every single play. I do think it's a big money saver for Robert Kraft. He has 2 guys. He's always had a small coaching staff. But offensive coordinators in the NFL cost about $1.52 million. He has 2 guys that are being paid by other organizations, and they have, fake titles. So, Belichick is I think a lot of people underestimate just because these teams have so much money. He is saving Robert Kraft millions of dollars.
That's great until he loses him a bunch of money by not hosting any playoff games, right? I mean, I'm not Mac Jones is no Ferrari, but this is like getting a Ferrari and not putting Pirellis on.
But they made the playoffs last year though, and didn't host. It's going to be the Bills are winning that division every year.
Okay, but I'm just saying, there are other ways to make up. You invest in all this stuff.
I know,
right? That can't be his primary reason for doing this, to save Robert Kraft money.
Yeah, I think it's an underrated factor of the whole thing. I think it happens a lot in the NFL.
In the list of Bills, moves that will get doubted until they succeed, and he gets to say, I told you so. This might be at the top of the list. Obviously, not wanting Tom Brady back, there will never be a bigger decision than that in Belichick's career. But if this somehow works, it might be the biggest I told you so of his career. Because the Brady one is not, and I told you so. Brady went and won a Super Bowl in Tampa.
And it was time. Like they were getting into, like the divorce was imminent.
Yeah.
I think naming Joe Judge the offensive coordinator would have been a lot less crazy. Special teams guy, but it also coached the wide receivers, was a college quarterback. Even though he was like kind of known for a special teams guy, I think that would have been a less crazier transition than the defensive coordinator.
Up next, John, this is
Jesus.
from Flashy. Solid pod. I like their focus on football. 5 stars because I know it helps you. It does help with the algorithm, but I have a suggestion. Kill, shave it, or save it. It's a terrible segment and only works for YouTube. The podcast listeners who put you on the map can't see the images while we're listening. Respect the listeners. That's a legitimate piece of feedback, John. I wouldn't call it complaint. And we did kill, shave it, or save it from the last podcast. Actually, in part, I didn't think of it until I saw this. And he's right. Respect for the listener is a big part of what we're about. So shave it or save it out of the pod. It stays in the YouTube. My question, can you give more credit to players? You guys talk about coaches like they're out there making tackles, catching the ball, picking up blitzes, etc. All professional sports are about the players, not the coaches. You guys spend so much time talking about the coaches, it gets old. Something to think and be aware of. Also, Shanahan overrated. His record isn't even 500. So stop talking about him like he's Belichick or John Madden. He hasn't accomplished anything and has lost more than he's won as the Niners head coach.
Yeah, we did pivot to the thing. I'll answer the second part first. I feel my role in the ecosystem is to be on the coach administrative side. I do think the majority of the media and definitely all the former players have that market cornered. Have at it. Because I have no problem talking about specific players in specific instances, but I will spend more time coming at it from most fans on the couch scream at those players, And I'm not saying I scream at the players, but there is a way the fan, and you've always said this, thinks of themselves like a GM.
Yeah.
And I try to speak for those because listening, and I don't watch nearly as much sports content as I once did, but I would say the majority of that comes from that, and I find it very boring.
Well, I would say I think it's very dependent on the situation. Like sometimes the player deserves the blame, and sometimes the coach deserves the blame, and sometimes the GM deserves the blame. Sometimes they all deserve the blame. And I think we try to view it that way. That said, I do think most people approach sports from the GM coach standpoint. What play should you have called? What guy should you have drafted? I think that view tends to be the most fun view. I also think that, and we see this a lot with like contract negotiations, there are things that are better for the player and there are things that are better for the sport. And sometimes the things that are better for the player are at odds with what is better for the sport, right?
Yes.
Like players being able to be free agents every year is way better for the players. If I were a player, I would want to be able to be a free agent every year. I'd want opt-outs in all of my contracts. I'd want to go to whatever city has the right temperature for me that year and the lowest tax bracket. But that's not what's best for the sport. What's best for sports is players generally stay on the same team, especially the stars, especially the quarterbacks, until it gets time. Maybe they get traded. Maybe they move to one team or another. Peyton Manning moves or Russell Wilson moves. But guys being on 4 different teams in 7 years is not best for the sport. I think the way basketball works is great for the players. And if I were the players, I'd want it to work that way too. But the way the Warriors exist, where their star players are all on that team, that is what is better for building storylines and creating, a league that's easy for your fans to follow.
I think that's a great example because the NBA, which has it's always been player centric, but the players now run the league. The commissioner, they tell the commissioner what to do, has lost half its audience in, 6-7 years. The NFL, which is a front office and coaching led sport, which means the fans just benefit more, has grown their audience. So I think and I also come from a scouting perspective that we're lucky, talking a lot of Niners, obviously, they have star players that we talk about very glowingly, and that Trent Williams is not replaceable, right? Nick Bosa is not replaceable. When Debo plays like that, there is no other Debo Samuel, and we give them their praise. But I do look at it because that's my background. Majority of the NFL, as you saw, we're recording this this week, a bunch of guys got cut. It's a very replaceable sport with a lot of positions. Now, the Niners don't have that many. They have a high volume of irreplaceable players, but it speaks. They have one of the best rosters in the league. You know, the Lions, let's face it, you get rid of 95% of their players and no one would notice if you just replace them with just players like them, right? It's part of the sport that we talk a lot about, right? Aaron Judge, not replaceable, right? Justin Verlander, when he's on, not replaceable. NFL, fuck the Niners, 4 of their 5 offensive linemen, if we replace them tomorrow, not a soul would notice. That's just a reality, right?
All right, John, next up from Dalton. When it comes to a team like the Atlanta Falcons, who's probably going to be bad and has a top draft pick, why not just draft Will Anderson instead of one of the QBs? Just ride it out with Mariota. Obviously, I understand the need for a star quarterback, but Stroud or Bryce Young have way more bust potential than ending up like Mahomes or Herbert, and Will Anderson's much more likely to be Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett than a total bust. I guess my point is I don't think any QB should be drafted ahead of Will Anderson. Thoughts? Also, could you spread the love throughout the league? I know way too much about the 49ers and their roster for not being a fan of that team. The Atlanta Falcons, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this story a couple days ago. What's his name that got suspended for gambling?
Guy, did I see the
Calvin
story? The one that Mariah Carey and all those people were part of?
Yeah, like it's like there's like RICO racketeering charges.
He was not having mental health issues. He was terrified for his own safety and life.
He was being tormented. People were basically holding them all hostage, saying we're going to rob you guys.
I don't know why didn't he come out, I don't know, to his team and the league and say, I got an issue. They might have, I don't know, supported him.
Right, a fear of retribution for the same reason the local shop owner doesn't tell the police that the mob is making him pay $50,000 a month.
You see how the RICO people got caught? They were posting rap lyrics on Instagram.
Oh my God. What percentage of rap lyrics are actually things people have done? I'm going to say 5%. Most people are not rap. You think everybody, I think there's a lot of shitty rap songs out there about murking somebody by somebody who hasn't murked anyone.
Oh yeah. You're saying the actual person talking that have carried out those lyrics.
Yes. Sorry, not all of the things have been done. All right, to the question now. I don't think any quarterback should be drafted ahead of Will Anderson. Thoughts?
Well, we did this exercise, right? Kyler Murray, Nick Bosa. No one would argue that in a vacuum, Nick Bosa is a much better player than Kyler Murray. And this is probably a good example because Kyler Murray is clearly better than like more than half the quarterbacks in the league. But if Kyler Murray had been Marcus Mariota, for example, would you have regretted that? Yes. But at the time, you don't know that, right? So if you think at the time, remember Marcus Mariota, there were a lot of people that thought like this guy was the next Steve Young. We were told that. We thought it was crazy. I even once tweeted it out, and Titans Twitter, as we found out, is very aggressive. But Will Anderson is better than any of these quarterbacks. That is not arguable, right? I think people think Will Anderson has a chance to be like Micah Parsons meets Myles Garrett. He's like one of the best college players the last couple of decades. But if you think one of those guys has a chance to be a top 12 quarterback, can you not make that move, even if you know this guy's a Pro Bowler year one? The Will Anderson, that being not the quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback position it gets a little boost in its value, right? So a B+ quarterback is better than an A+.
Well, if Will Anderson's a 10 out of a 10 as a prospect, and let's say it turns out whoever this quarterback that shines this year and is like he's the best quarterback, but he's still like not luck or whatever, 10 out of 10 is like a 7.8 or an 8 out of 10. Yeah, that 8 out of 10 is more powerful than the 10 out of 10, right?
Yes, it is. But as we see time and time again, when we really look at like through the quarterback tiers, if your guy's not almost a 10 out of 10, then you're probably looking for a new guy soon. The Browns and Baker. See what happens with Tua, Jimmy, right? So if you're not Herbert or Mahomes, even though it's a ridiculous standard, it really is the standard when you're drafting that high. If you're not getting Herbert or Mahomes, we'll see what Kyler turns into, but at some point in time, he's been an MVP candidate. Then there is a line where it doesn't matter if you have a B+ quarterback. That's just not going to be good enough. But you know,
you see the look on Will Anderson's face. I had a scout tell me, I don't know if this year he's changed. Yeah. Last year, told no one NIL he's not fucking with it. Like he is as serious as a heart attack. That look, if I told you that he had 30 sacks this year and just has like the greatest college season and wins the Heisman, isn't it kind of believable?
He's got Utah State. He's got Utah State week 1. They got Utah State on Saturday.
They did just beat Jim Mora.
Yeah, at UConn. Not by a lot either.
Yeah. You know, it's
kind of close. Utah State's lost some things, John. Next up, this is from NDXJJYISWEXYZ. 4 stars. Any chance you make the Raider Guy pod? Used to be a good mix of Raiders Niners. Now completely a Niners pod. And I can't take much more of it. I don't want to stop listening to you guys, but I can't listen to Jimmy G rumors or how good Debo is anymore. See, this is what I'm talking about. 4 stars, but then want something from us. You haven't been listening to the Raider Pod?
I think
on the dark web.
We'll mix in AFC West football.
Somebody asked me that the other day, and I said, I have a feeling we'll be talking about the Raiders and the whole thing's interesting. So we'll be talking about the Raiders. But I would say I don't think the Raider Guy pod is coming. More than twice a week.
It's just business decisions.
That's right. Liam says, killers, 5 stars. Born and bred Florida boy, an East Coast guy. And I can't get enough of these guys, even though the content's mostly West Coast. Even the girlfriend doesn't mind when I put these guys on because they're funny yet informed takes on the sports world. This sounds like a guy we paid in another country to make an iTunes review. That's a good review. You shouldn't have to give us that review for free. Thanks, Liam. It wasn't even a question, but I wanted to put it in because he titled it Killers. Fawn says, mailbag question, longtime listener. I think they're the best duo in the business. My question is, why do you limit your content to pretty much Niners only? Couldn't you expand by expanding your content? I've been listening to you guys since the radio days, and I firmly believe the likes of Florio and Sims or McAfee and Hawk have nothing on you two. Haven't been tuning in much lately, though, because the Niners while the Niners have interesting storylines, there's a sense of repetitiveness. I really believe you two could reach out to more audience by expanding your topics. Thanks for producing quality content. And Fonz, thank you for the 5 stars, despite what some would consider negative feedback, but not us because we can't be offended.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. That it's been very, very lucrative. Our pivot to there's a reason we said over and over that you're able to finance a business around the Yankees, finance a business around the Dallas Cowboys, finance a business around the Los Angeles Lakers, for example, or I think in our backyard, the Golden State Warriors, and what Tim and Marcus and Ethan and Anthony. I mean, that's 4 people have built their entire careers and businesses around covering one team. This would not be possible with 90% of the league. It's a unique fan base with a unique amount of money, and there's a checks and balances on an Excel spreadsheet that we're not just randomly pulling this out of this isn't a passion project. Even though I say this all the time when people like Raider fans are like, you just admit it, you are a fan. I've said, listen, I am rooting for the Niners to win, but I'm rooting for them to win simply because I know it makes me a lot more money. If you told me they went 0-17 and we would double revenue, I would not even hesitate to root for them to go 0-17. That's the way I can best describe it. So yes, I'm rooting for them to win because that equals money. But if you told me that it didn't matter if they went 0 wins and we would triple our revenue, I would sign up for 0 wins.
It also equals viewers, and viewers, it's more fun to do it when more people are listening. Viewers, I mean, I guess the listeners are much bigger than the viewers at this point, but the viewers are growing. So that's good too. And I would say this, I think the model for growth on the internet, it's been repeated several times. There are a lot of, I would say, like Florio's not one of them. McAfee's not one of them. But I think there are several examples of businesses, of shows that started niche, and then because that niche had a big following, they grew into other things. Barstool's obviously the perfect example of this, right? That was Boston sports for a long, 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 long time. And now no one thinks of it as Boston-only sports.
I do think Florio's a bad example. He has the biggest NFL website, and he has the biggest sports website, you'd argue, in the history of America.
Yeah. John Boy's another one. John Boy still does a lot of Yankees, primarily Yankees, but has branched on that stuff, right?
Did you see?
And we do a lot. We do, I think, a fair amount of stuff. Clearly, it's heavy Niners that is non-Niners because ideally that's the eventual branch.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I see what?
How many people were at the Anaheim Angels Stadium in the Yankees games?
I mean,
it sure did not look like there was an empty seat. Did it not?
It looked pretty good.
I mean, it looked dramatically more than you were at the Oakland Yankee game. Like, it felt like there were way more people. That you said it wasn't full up top. That place was full.
Coliseum, I think, is bigger, but yeah, Coliseum was a ton of Yankees fans. I mean, my guess would be 80% at least.
Yeah, my point ultimately is like the Niners can sell out other like you can build, like people have built businesses, for example, around the Packers. They're a unique brand that I know Nagler's part of that deal. Like there's a lot of people. This is not random. This is not a passion project.
John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about DraftKings, where we have made our picks for the week. Right now, sign up with the code HAM. Sign up with the code HAM at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings app. Bet just $5 on any football game and get $200 in free bets instantly. And that's not the only promotion this week.
Yeah, guy, want more action on opening night? everyone can experience the thrill of DraftKings early win promotion. Here's the key. Get up 7 points and you win. Bet on any NFL team week 1 of your choice. And if your team leads by 7 points, it doesn't matter if they win the game, lose the game, cover, whatever. If they're up by 7 points, you get paid instantly, even if your team loses. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw cash whenever you want.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code HAM to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code HAM on the DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Thursday, you got a game on Thursday, so let's be locked in on this.
I do. Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State is way too big of a favorite. I'm going with our guy, Jim McElwain, who's had success at Colorado State. You know, everyone thought he was with the Shark, but he took the Florida Gators to the SEC championship game all the time, and now Central Michigan was successful last year. 3 touchdowns, plus 21. Love them this weekend, baby. Sign up with promo code HAM.
And I love Utah -3 at Florida this week. I don't think that line's big enough to the number 7 ranked team in the nation. I think Florida's quarterback, Anthony Richardson, Kyle Whittingham compared him to Cam Newton the other day. People are very high on him, very talented guy. But I think Utah, people forget, was the 14th ranked offense in the nation last year, 36 points per game. They bring a lot of guys back. And I think they've got reason to start the season fast after that close loss to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl last year. So I like Utah. Throw up the U. I like Utah, not Mario.
Go Utes.
All right. Next up, John, mailbag. What's up, fellas? More Raiders content, please. That's my only feedback. John, let's talk about Alex Leatherwood. No, we did that on the last show. Jimmy G's character being questioned by the media. Okay, now this is the example of a mailbag question that came before Garoppolo was re-signed by the Niners, but I think it kind of works. Said, love the content and the banter. I've noticed the past week there's even more negative coverage of Jimmy. Before it was more that his contract was too much, but then there was the Mike Silver story that he's ghosting everybody, and people are talking about him being flaky and unreliable. I know he went off the grid last offseason. That wasn't great. About texting, but the way people are going on, it sounds much worse. What is your take? And now we can look with hindsight and say it clearly wasn't that bad if they were comfortable bringing him back into the room with Trey Lance.
Yeah, if you listen to our Tuesday podcast, we discussed some of Mike Silver, and he wrote some other stuff. Here's what I will say about Mike Silver, and I'm going to reiterate this over and over. And I think sometimes Twitter personalities with like media people can be different than they actually are, even though I have to say one thing about like Kawakami and Mike, like they are unique personalities. Mike Silver got my phone number when I was basically an intern with the Eagles working the sidelines. Mike Silver at that time in 2000, now part of it is we were both Davis guys, so it was a unique, he'd said like he'll grab me a beer. But I saw him get other people's numbers on other coaching staffs, young guys. Mike Silver has been befriending people in the NFL it's 2022, for almost 3 decades now. To think that like these people on Twitter that push back that Mike's making shit up, I'll promise you, he is not writing this stuff to try to he knows. This isn't educated guesses. He knows. Like he's known Kyle Shanahan's dad since he was coaching the 49ers as an offensive coordinator with Steve Young. He wrote one of the transcendent pieces in Sports Illustrated when he was a young writer on the Broncos offensive line when they were playing the Packers. Because remember, part of Shanahan's offensive line was they all weighed like 280 pounds, and the Packers had these enormous defensive linemen with Reggie White. Like, I don't think people can comprehend, just because so many bloggers and stuff that, let's face it, don't necessarily know that many people in the NFL. I would imagine on average, Mike Silver has, between front office and a coaching staff, on every single team, on average, 5 contacts a team. And some, could be like 10, given, older coaches and stuff, and GMs,
owners.
He would know every single GM in his Rolodex, and I would say, if not every head coach, offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator on our staff.
He was covering the Niners back when John Lynch was playing at Stanford.
He's just not making this shit up. That's what I know, and it's been proven.
Yes,
right? Wouldn't you say the moment Jimmy was re-signed, it was kind of proven a lot of this stuff? And I think it started with the arm fatigue. Everyone made such a big deal. Kyle didn't deny it. People were like, what was he talking? No, Kyle said, like, they're laughing about it, but it was a real thing. I don't care about the arm fatigue, but everyone freaked out about that.
I agree. Next up, Realistic Raider. Amigos, we need more we need the Raider guy podcast to come out.
God, people want it, man.
50,000 more suggestions and it happens. Doesn't have to be all year long. We yearn for 15 to 20 minutes. Keep up the great work. What do you guys think about the Raiders this year? For some reason, I see the Broncos as not a huge threat, but obviously fearful of KC. They have absolutely smoked the Raiders for a decade, and the Chargers.
That's right.
Yeah. I think the Chiefs win the division. I think you agree with that, or I think that's what
Are you still shorting Russell?
I'm still shorting the Broncos a little bit based on the unknown with their head coach. I last year bought Russell when everybody was selling Russell because I thought he'd come back in incredible shape this year. It hasn't looked like it's happened. Now maybe he's doing your thing. He's just bulking up because he's not going to be as mobile. But yes, I am shorting Denver.
Give me your prediction. Russell Wilson stat line, just touchdown pick.
33 and I don't know what he doesn't throw a lot of picks. I mean,
no, he doesn't.
Yeah, 11.
So if I told you 39 and 8, would you say the Broncos are probably pretty good?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's hard for me to imagine his stats being bad, but I just don't think their defense will be as good as last year. They lose Vic, and I just wonder about their head coach. But yeah, I mean that's 39 and 8 is pretty damn good.
Well, if he's 39 and 8, you'd be hard pressed to see them anything under 9 wins, right?
Well, there's not finishing in last place if he's 39 and 8, right?
No. Now 39 and 8 would be a pretty awesome season. I mean, he'd be one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
A pretty awesome quarterback.
Yeah. Let's ride.
So where do you think the Raiders land this year?
I think they're battling for second place.
Yeah, I agree.
But they also could, it's not out of the realm of possibility they finish 4th. Someone's going to finish 4th in this division, and they might go 8-9, and it's because a couple missed field goals, a couple bad picks, and it was like they were right there. Like, to me, the 4th place team could be 8-9 or 9-8, right? If one team's 12 wins, another team, maybe 2 other ones are 10, and the other was 8 or 9, and you watch them play, you're like, God, I thought they were actually pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
Hard to envision like a 6-win team in this in that division.
Depressed Raider fan on the question. Depressed Raider fan. Did you guys hear the Benjamin Albright nugget that Sean Payton could be traded to Dallas for Dak? McCarthy's not going to last the year, in my opinion. Great show, by the way. Long-time listener. I did not hear Ben's. I could not find this report. So no, I didn't hear that one.
Seems a little extreme.
Yeah, but I don't think McCarthy. Did you know that Scott Frost? You remember how last year Chip Kelly? I told you Chip Kelly's contract. It was going to be hard for UCLA to get rid of him because his buyout didn't go down until like January 15th. He had a huge buyout. Chip did.
Yeah. So you didn't want to wait to fire him,
but you weren't going to pay him like a bunch of money to go away.
Yeah, they were kind of screwed.
Scott Frost buyout takes a big drop in like October 4th or something. It's really bizarre. People are suggesting he gets fired like in October.
Well, because he got just lucky to survive here, right? Chip was more. They won some games.
Yeah, UCLA's been getting better and better. I'm just saying something to be aware of. I didn't realize that he has this big contractual drop off.
I didn't know that. You see the stat that if Scott Frost won 50 straight games, he still have a worse record than Bo Pelini did when he was head coach in Nebraska?
I did see that. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And finally, John, from Duahi GB. I discovered these fellas a couple years ago. Love the back and forth. They're locked in, provide expert analysis. Probably best for Niners fans, but they talk some Raiders relatively consistently. I even listened to them at my favorite bar, Kingfish in Oakland. I'm sorry. I thought this one had a question, but it was just another compliment, kind of. So there we go.
I'm not saying we fooled people, but we made our radio careers. You had a career well before me, but like when we did a radio show together, we were a part of a radio station that only for like 2 or 3 years in the history of Northern California actually spoke about the Raiders. So it gave people hope that there would be people. And the moment that radio station, after we left, immediately said no mas, and no one before and after ever talks about the Raiders. We gave them hope, like, God, these people will talk about it. And we did. I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it.
They were good.
Yeah, they were good. They were a playoff team. We went to practice with Khalil Mack, and we know Derek Carr. He somehow blocked me, but kept you alive. And I just think we gave a lot of people false hope just because there was that moment in time. And we just talked about, we enjoyed. I went to the games. Guy somehow in his contract didn't have to go to them all, and it was
I was doing A's pre and post.
They canceled all that.
I had done it. I'd put in the time.
And then my last ever day on radio, guy.
Yeah.
I guess we did a radio show. Then I was fired, but I also worked a Sunday, and it was the Crabtree game-winning catch against the Saints when Jack Del Rio went for 2.
Yeah.
I did Raiders
both.
post game, and then
That
we did
was
a radio
that
show the next day,
Sunday.
and then I was fired the next day.
No. We interviewed Latavius Murray that Monday. The show ended that day. That Monday,
I know.
didn't it?
Yeah.
So you did Raiders post-game Sunday. Latavius comes on the show Monday. Can you see me in our office Monday?
You would say if people knew what they were doing, they would not let an individual do week 1 of the NFL season, right? But
You would say
what do
people
I
knew
know?
what they were doing?
If you and I were running it, we'd probably be a little more buttoned up. But
Luckily, John Lund had given us some intel like a week or 2 ahead of time, and our contracts were expiring. We weren't caught off guard, but nonetheless, it was quite a weird situation.
Yeah.
The good news was you were told you can come back at the same salary at a reduced role. We're like, how does that make sense? That never materialized.
no.
Thankfully.
For the first time in my life, been fired twice. Other time, no money remaining on the contract.
Yeah.
This time was paid for several months. And it was pretty cool. Like I never understand these coaches that are like, Joe Judge, got to get back into it, bro. Just fucking enjoy the year.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath, man.
You and Alex Leatherwood.
just enjoy just go to the beach.
It was very nice. It was very nice. I think we launched our podcast like 3 weeks later.
Yeah, you don't keep alphas down long.
All right. Good pod, everybody. Thanks for hanging with the mailbag. Submit some more questions.